Okay. It's a step forward.
Hello, how's everybody doing? This is another episode of the Then Now podcast. This is our live show. I have with me Mr. Brother Ethan Murphy. How you doing, brother?
Sir, happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
And I have to my right my esteemed other co-host, Mr. Lelouch V, aka Mr. Stanger. How you doing?
Stink meaning. I'm good. I'm excited for this show right now. I'm real excited for this one. Let's get into it.
Okay. I think what everybody wants to start with, which is some smoke we were talking about off screen. We were talking about Halloween Kills more specifically. The new sequel dropped, I think, last week, some point, maybe the week before that. There's another saga in the Michael Myers, another part of the Michael Myers saga. I'll just go ahead and let you off the leash and go ahead and rip this apart. What you got to say?
I feel like if you go to your local high school and go to the drama department and have them put together something in about 15 minutes, it'll be a little bit more cohesive than what this Halloween Kills movie turned out to be. Like, it starts off with a scene of a bunch of firefighters going off to like fight Michael Myers gladiator style with axes. They got a chainsaw, like, and they said, "Let's get him." It was like, what firefighter has ever said those words on the job, period, in any era? Like, since firefighting has been invented. What? Like, I feel like this movie could not act its way out of a paper bag that's already ripped open. Like, it's B-list is like too high of a standard for what this would be. This has got to be like Gamma list. That doesn't even make sense, but like it's so bad. It is the worst thing I've seen in a long time.
No.
Now, are you saying no? Did you play that clip because you disagree with what he said? Does that mean you love the movie to pieces, Charlie?
I'll save mine for last. Ethan, what do you think about it? What do you think, Ethan?
So I haven't seen this one. I saw the last one, the one that came out a couple of years ago with Jamie Lee Curtis reprising her role. That's when I was on a date. And what's funny about it was the date was okay. It wasn't that great, but I remember thinking, I wish my date was more like Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie. I remember thinking that. So it's interesting to hear that this movie is so almost childish or seems ridiculous. Like, let's get him. It seems like, off the wall. So I don't have an opinion of this movie, but I am upset that it seems like it's taking a step down from what the previous one was.
Because honestly, the last one was tolerable. I'll give that one maybe like a 6.5, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. This is like a -3. Like, they are, the first 20 minutes of the movie is them showing scenes of like one of the 1980 Michael Myers movies. Like, we didn't already see that. That's why we're already fucking here watching this one. And then they go into, like, they're at this like bar doing a town hall meeting talking about like all the people that Michael Myers has killed. And it's like, yeah, but we're going to be here strong. And yeah. And then he starts going on his usual killing spree, because that's what he does when he, is in a movie. That's what Michael Myers does. And it's like, yeah, evil dies tonight. They rally the whole town to go try to fight him. And it's like, you think this is going to end well? Like, this person has survived everything that you can. Like, he's bulletproof. He is fireproof. He is explosive proof. Like, what do you think you're going to do when this guy has killed more police officers than donuts? Like, what do you think is going to happen with these random nobodies that have never been trained in anything go try to kill him? Like, it's not going to end well. But I'm sorry, I'm ranting. I don't
No,
like
no, that's what I hear.
That's funny. I will do a couple things. I will rip this movie apart. I will defend this movie at the same time. There are some aspects that are defendable. Starting off, for the point that Otis had earlier, as far as like them now knowing him being bulletproof and fireproof, this movie, like the last two movies, everything. So the way this works is the first one from '78, the one before this, and this one. Every other movie to that point does not exist, so they don't know anything about him outside of him just like being just like killing his family and then killing the babysitters in the first one. That's all they know
I
about him up to this point. They think he's a
What-
regular person.
Yeah, but wasn't part 2 also part of the canon? Because part 2 takes place like the next night or that same night or something like that. It's like direct. So
Yeah.
I think it's part 1, the original one from the 78 whatever it came out. Then the very next part, so part 2. I think those are canon, and then it jumps over to the one that came out a couple of years ago. I think that's the chain of events essentially.
Possibly, but I think
That's
with
the continuity.
those first two movies combined, he killed what, maybe 10 people with regular means. So, but to that point,
Yeah.
all the crazy shit of him getting blown up and shot with,
Right.
we didn't see any of that. So that's
Right.
why
That's
everyone in the town at that point in time believes Michael Myers to be a regular person, is just a fucking serial killer at that point.
yes. Yeah.
So I will defend. That's the one thing with that. Some of the things in this movie don't make sense, and some of the things make sense but are not executed well. So when it comes, the one issue I have with this movie is that they do a thing that they do with a lot of sequels and a lot of remakes. When they reboot a series, they have to give the people that may not have seen this in '78 an explanation on who Michael Myers is and his inspirations. But
Right.
even then, it's like, of course, with him throughout the decades, he's had so many different inspirations, whether it be him being raised from a cult, him being like a demon, or him being possessed or whatever. They have a million different things. And this one, for whatever reason, they don't really explain why he does what he does. It's kind of weird. Like, this seems like the inspiration they have for the movie is like he wants to go to his home, his childhood home, and look out the window of his sister's old room. So they don't really give you explanation on which I don't really
So
always think
you're saying
one.
he wants to go he wants to go back to his childhood home, and then he wants to go into his sister's room and just look out the window. That's his
Hold on.
objective.
Hold on. I'll get there. I'll get to that in a second. But the things in this movie that are weird, the number one thing, like you said before, is like them having to reintroduce Michael Myers, which I don't really think you need to do, because I think he's such an iconic / like I think he's the one that started it all. I don't think you need to explain who he is. What up, my boy Michael? I gotta put my eyes back on. What up, Mike? I don't think you need to explain who Michael Myers is again, because he's the slasher that kicked it all off. If it was like the Leprechaun or some shit like that, I'd understand them needing to go back and do another reintroduction of the character, give backstory again. But in the beginning, they went through and like went back to the night of, I think, the first movie to like show Mike again and kind of give like an introduction to him, which I didn't really think you needed. There's a lot of unnecessary things in this movie that they have in there, and it also feels like multiple people worked on this movie, because there are parts that match with each other and other parts that don't match with each other. So it felt like this movie was cut in two halves for me. A half of like a traditional Michael Myers movie in which he's like the shape and he's going around killing people, and for whatever reason he's just killing people. And then there's another like half subplot in which he's terrorized the town for 40 years and the town's fed up, so they're going for like a manhunt towards him. So there's like two different things. So it's like the curse of Michael Myers and him just being a serial killer, then like the curse that he has on the town. And they make that a point to say that the end, like a monologue that Laurie Strode has.
Okay.
And another thing, as far as getting to his sister's room again, they have this thing where in the beginning scene where he goes into his sister's room to look out the window. And by the end of the movie, Laurie Strode is in this monologue in which she's describing how Michael Myers, you can't defeat him with brute strength, because there's a thing where he gets jumped by the town, still survives. Like he gets shot 3 times, beat with a bat in the back a couple times, and then stabbed in the back, but he gets back up. Because she's like, the more people he kills, the less human he becomes. So I guess they're alluding to some kind of supernatural aspect to him finally, like in this canon of the movie.
Okay.
And in the end, she's saying that when he goes to look outside of his sister's window, he's not looking out the window, but he's looking at his own reflection. They don't really give any explanation to why that's important, but that seems to be his modus operandi in this movie, is to like get to his childhood home. Because again, like in every movie, like he's making his way back home. Like, I don't know why that's They don't really explain why that house is so much. Maybe just because it was where he grew up and he committed his first murders at. But the entire movie, he starts at the compound where he was at Laurie's old house from the first one, and then he's making his way to childhood home now, like just killing people in the path there. And he makes it there, and now he looks in the reflection, but they don't really. I guess they're setting up for another movie to explain that, which I'm not gonna say we don't need. We probably don't need it, but if you're gonna do it, you need to be more cohesive than this. I will agree with that this movie is extremely incohesive, and some of the scenes they feel like they're from two different movies. They feel like they took two Michael Myers movies and combined them into one. Because one scene is like him being dark and killing, and then you don't see him for like another 20 minutes, and now you're like getting a perspective of the people of the town and like how they feel about Michael and how he's affected the town. And then you go back to him killing like 4 or 5 more people, and then back into more time perspectives. Laurie Strode isn't even in the movie that much. Laurie Strode doesn't do that much because she still got injuries from the first one. Right. So it's literally just like the town. They're just focused on the town. It's not even focused on her anymore. Yeah, she's like around.
It's not her versus because the first one what came a couple of years ago was about Laurie. It's like generations. It was like Laurie as a grandmother, then Laurie's daughter. It was Judy Greer, and then Judy Greer's daughter, which is Laurie's granddaughter. The 3 of them versus Michael Myers. And luckily enough, I think most of them survived. I'm not going to spoil about that, but it seems like what you're saying is not about the daughters or that generation fighting him this time. It's
they just get rid of that subplot altogether. They're there, but they're not important anymore.
Then I say that. Okay.
Another thing that kills me is like they make it this is how I know it's 2 different movies or 2 different people like worked on this. In one scene, they say it over like his Laurie's daughter says it over and over again about how Michael's on his way to the hospital, like he has unfinished business with Laurie, like you usually would have, and they said that a lot. But in actuality, he's not even trying to get there. He's going to his childhood home. So you literally have 2 different different plots.
But it seems like the writers are disconnected. It seems like one writer is saying on page 12 he's going to the hospital. The next writer on page 13 saying he's going over here instead.
Exactly.
I don't know how they get that disconnect because like all the people are gathered in the hospital at first. It's like, yeah, we're gonna get him here, and then 2 scenes later, they're out driving through the streets looking for him. It's like, wait, you just said that he was coming here. You all gathered here and had a whole rally in the lobby of the hospital.
That's bad.
But now you're driving out hunting for him? Like, it make sense.
That's why when it comes to Otis and his anger for it, I'm not as angry. Like, I'm irritated, but because again, we've seen this a million times with different movies with big studios where multiple hands get their hand in a cookie jar and they make it where it's like a smash up of different things, like Snyder and the Justice League stuff. We saw a full Snyder cut, and it was nowhere near as bad as the original one because it was just his vision and not for like another person putting his shit on top of his shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's why like I'm irritated that happened. Yeah. But I don't think that's really a testament on the original story itself because again, there's no original story. It's like 2 different stories put in one, which will never make sense. That's why what I think might be this might be a victim of COVID as far as they may have shot some things, may have written some things, they had a set plan before COVID happened. And then after COVID, things kind of got shifted around, things may have gotten changed or what have you, or they may not have been able to go back and reshoot some different things. And this is what we ended up with. So it still is a Frankenstein's monster of sorts. And you can tell that because I don't think the studio had faith in this movie because I saw almost no promotion for this movie outside of like a couple YouTube ads or whatever on social media. And they had what's her name? Not Lori, Jamie Lee Curtis. They had her and like the other 2 co-hosts, like co-stars. I go to like 1 or 2 podcast interviews.
So they still had some much. Out here in LA, I still saw plenty of billboards and things like that. They weren't hiding the movie. And also it's Halloween. Right. It's kind of like you have to promote it. It's the biggest it's your golden apple on the best time of year for it too. That's my thing. I feel like it was a thing where like they had to put it out because of the money and time they put in it. Right. Plus they didn't have time for reshoots and shit like that. That's what I think it is. I think it's that they if they had their druthers, this would have been delayed. Yeah. Maybe another 5-6 months. Who knows how long? But they're like, we have to release it. And I would have preferred that because then I would judge it. Like if I had to rip it apart, I would rip it apart about it being a bad movie. Yeah. I don't even like. Part of me doesn't want to rip this movie apart so much because it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like an anthology series. That is ripping it apart. Yes. To not even acknowledge it as a movie is ripping it apart.
It's like, let's introduce this random 2 people, have them talk to each other for 5 seconds. Michael Myers breaks into their house and then murders them. And then next house, same thing. Next house, same thing. But in between that, they're trying to put together these plots that really don't connect to anything because everything that they say they don't actually follow through with in execution. It's like, did you watch the movie before you put it out? Like, did you watch it? Like, did you look at your own edits before you released it?
They didn't. Those editors are stressed. Some editors are like, okay, how the fuck do we piece this movie together? Because they didn't give us a lot to work with.
And
like,
I think
take this,
what happened.
clip it together. That's why, like, I'm irritated, but I'm not angry because I know this isn't. Now,
I'm
this movie
irritated because somebody got paid to edit this. Somebody got paid to do that shit.
The edits were great. No, I ain't talking about the edits. The edits were crazy. What I'm mad at is the writing, or like the management when it came to the writing, because like from a fact this movie had had a plethora of writers on it, like more than needed for them to have two separate plots. Like it felt like, all right, you're not doing what I want you to do. We're firing him. We're firing you. You go off what he did. All right, we'll get you some help. Like there's too many hands in the cookie jar. If this movie would have had the one subplot of like, really all I wanted from this movie, finish the plot you have from the first one on the connection between Michael and Laurie Strode. Either kill her and keep more sequels going after that and have him have some other motivation, or kill him and end the series. You need to.
Well, let's do that. Let's talk about what the movie should have been. That's a good idea that you had there, Dev. You said finish the storyline, essentially have it where, because that's something that they've done in more recent years. They try to have it where it's a full baton toss to the next iteration. They set that up in the last film. It could have been nice in a way if
that's what I thought was coming. I thought like, okay, you finally get rid of Jamie Lee Curtis. Now you got a daughter and a granddaughter to follow.
Right. Let's do that. It's a perfect successful hit. And actually, I thought in the first one, I thought the last one she was going to die. Actually, I thought she would actually die. She pretty much stabbed him, and they'd fall together down that fire in the house together. I'd be like, that's fine. She went out like a soldier, like a hero, taking down her little brother that was a monster, or not a monster brother, but taking down that monster. Related in this one. But taking down that monster, defending her family. That's dope. But they didn't go that route, and then it seemed like, well, they were going to possibly she be dead in this one. Nope, I guess not. So whatever it is, but I agree that they should try to wrap up that storyline. Let her go to rest, essentially.
I will say the pros, because I've ripped this movie apart enough. Positive things I do have to say about this movie. The biggest positive is the actor of Michael Myers and his body language of acting. Like there are certain kills where he does this weird thing that I really love with Michael Myers specifically, where like he choked out the cop in the first scene, right? And as soon as he kills this cop, he immediately just turns and walks away, like he's uninterested in the other cop there. Like he moves with a purpose, like he's literally like an animal in the sense of like an apex predator. Like, all right, kill you, I'm here now. I'm going here. He's not emotionally there. Like you can tell he's like, his mask being a blank face very much so matches the personality of Michael Myers in the sense of I have objective, I finish objective, I go here. And like his movements are so like quirky and like terrifying in a sense. It's kind of like eerie. The fact that like a guy screaming at you has a gun pointed at you and you're just like, nah, fuck you, I'm going over here now. Right. Like he immediately just turns. And like the way he does the kills aren't the most super creative kills, but just the way this guy's actor, I don't know who he's, I gotta find his name. I probably should have figured it out beforehand. The way he like acts out these kills. Like we talked about it before with Squid Game and how like in that they spoke a whole different language, but the acting was so good, and like the facial features, the voice inflections and things like that, things that you don't really get, that you can't hear them say. That acting was so great that it left an impression on you. He left a great impression on me. He didn't say a single word, but in his actions and the way he like moved, I was terrified. Like not terrified, but like I was like, ooh, I think it's kind of creepy.
He was believable.
I mean, yeah, he was intimidating. He's like, yeah, if I see that thing, I'm not fucking with it. I'm going the other way. Mm-hmm. Like,
right.
I will give you that. Like the execution of the kills, like the kills specifically, was pretty well done. Like the animatics, of all the blood splatter and stuff like that. Like they did a good job there. Like, but that was it. Like they put all their folk. Like we're gonna pay the people, that do that a lot of money so they can do that well. And then it's like we got some singles to throw at these actors over here. You go say some lines. You got like 4 lines for you.
Yeah,
right.
Like
right.
Some of the actors like Jamie Lee, like the big actors, Jamie Lee Curtis and like the daughters, they were fine. But some of the other actors is like did you pull him off the street to come do this? Or
is he an actor? Is she an actor?
This person lived in a place where he's never watched a movie before, and they had to like then go give their impression of what they think would be in a movie, and then then they get killed by Michael Myers. So it turned out well for him in the end, I guess.
Yeah, and for us, because he's no longer around. I do want to transition real quick. Speaking of a person seeming like death walking towards you, real quick, Otis, did you see the trailer for Batman or The Batman?
Yeah. I have not seen it yet.
How is that possible? How is that possible?
Because I thought we were going to do the reaction video today.
Yeah.
Today? Oh,
literally when you told me, you were like, yeah, I don't know if I want to be on it. I'm like, all right, let me see if I can get Otis. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, cue it up. We're doing it right now. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing it right now.
Okay, so I accidentally cock blocked Otis. My bad. I didn't mean to do that. And then today you spent all day watching Halloween Kills instead of watching the Batman trailer. Woo! Decisions there.
Before we move completely off topic of Halloween, I will like to bridge the gap between the two in a transition. The last thing I'll say about this movie, as far as like the acting again, I'll go into the physical acting again. Michael Myers in this movie felt a lot more aggressive and like sadistic and twisted than he did in other movies. Like before, he would like admire his work, like you saw when he like in the first one he stabbed that one kid through the wall and kind of looked at it for a minute, like damn, I really did that. This one, he's like physically and mentally torturing people. Like there's one scene in particular with an old couple in a house where like he kind of sort of kills the old man and then kind of kills the old lady, but like sets the old lady up on the ground where she has to watch him like test out knives on her husband. Like he
like just goes through the whole like chopping block, and how everybody has the block of knives in their kitchen.
In horror movies,
picks one up, stab. Just
like he makes you watch him watch.
Yeah, makes you watch. Yeah. Here's the thing about that though. That almost seems out of character for Michael.
Yeah,
Michael.
I've never seen him do that.
Does it though?
Yes, it definitely does, because he isn't a showman for one thing. He's very much like I have a purpose. I'm here to do this.
You're just in my way.
You're just in my way. I don't give a shit about you. I don't give a shit about anybody. So for him to be like, hey, watch me put on this show, watch me torture you, watch me delight in killing. Mike doesn't really seem like the kind of person that delights in killing. It's just that he just does it. He's really good at it.
I'll disagree with that with a couple kills from the first movie, the one that's canon.
Okay.
The one I just said, the first one I talked about, obviously, where he picked one guy up and stabbed him through the chest. And he like sat there and admired his work for a minute.
Now you're saying admired. Nice. I don't see that as admired. He tilts his head. Tilting your head.
That's crazy.
That's kind of what we've seen kids, little small children. They will tilt their head in curiosity at something. I always saw that. And I just saw that. We just talked about the making of. They have they just put up on Netflix, and they have the whole idea of the making of behind the scenes and everything with Halloween. And for that, or the movies that made us, as it's called. And they talked about how when they were making that movie, all John Carpenter said to the actor, Nick, that was inside the suit, he said, was like, just tilt your head. Just tilt your head, quote unquote, in curiosity. That's what he said to him directly. He said, okay, I don't know what it means. And then he said, then he did it. He said, oh, okay, I get it. The idea is almost like death to Mike Myers is a weird concept. It's inhuman in a sense. He kills a lot, but it doesn't feel the same way to him that would to anybody else, like a sociopath. It's very disconnected to it. So I never saw it as him delighting in killing. It's more like I don't even understand what's happening, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. It's just this is just happening.
Another kill, second kill. Then maybe you have another explanation for this one. In the one where after he just it's like following this one I just talked about. After he kills that guy, and he goes to the girlfriend who's sitting in the bed. He puts a sheet over his face, not only that, puts the guy's glasses on. To make her think it's him. If that's not a showman or showmanship or like having a game or having fun with your kill, I don't know what else is, because you could have just walked in and killed her, no effort. But you chose to, like,
I agree.
Make her think it's you. And then other times where he like shows himself, like he'll walk up on people and then walk away, or like show him, like he makes himself known just to put fear in people and then walk away. Like I look at it like a child, like you said, with a child, where he's like having a little fun. He's having fun with his kills. That's like a child.
And that's fair. And the one I never understood why he put on. It's weird on like several levels. Yeah. Put it on the bed sheet and then put on the glasses. Even within the context of the movie, it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you hiding Mike Myers? That's the scariest thing is that he's like wearing that mask. Why would you put a goofy sheet over him and shapes. But I think the only way I've been able to rationalize that over all these years is more or less he still has the mind of a child on some level.
Exactly.
And so
playing.
He's playing. It's or it's almost like he doesn't even understand what's happening. It's a different thing. I don't know that he's trying to do it for show. It's
how often do you see kids? How often do you, when you talk to a kid, you say, "Hey, don't touch that," or "Don't do that," and the kid will look at you as he's slowly touching that thing, like he's having fun, and like that's again, I said it because he's in the mindset of a child. That's why I'm like, I don't think it's completely off brand for him to be like, "Hey, I'm going to kill him and make you watch, and you can't do anything about it. You can't stop me."
Fair. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's my mindset on it.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I think part of it is what I do like about it is because he is obscured in the mask. He never talks, never even breathes. Really, it leaves it up. It's meant to be left up to interpretation. I think Otis and I, on some level, see him as much more of a like force of nature. Kind of just he is darkness. I mean, he's literally called the Shape in the original script.
Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying though too, Deb. And it happens all the time with characters over time. They evolve in some way or something happens. So it means possible.
Yeah. And I say that this is transitioning into our main topic about slashers. We obviously wanted to, because in preparation for we're going to do a slasher draft next week, we wanted to talk about some of our favorite slashers and about just things we like about them. And one thing I will go into as far as regarding Jason Voorhees in the documentary that Ethan had us look at is called, for anybody that hasn't watched, it's called The Movies That Made Us. And they kind of do episodically go through each big movie that really changed the film industry. I think this season was specifically horror. And for the Jason Voorhees one, within the first 5 minutes, the guy said, he said that Halloween was making money, let's rip that off. And you see a lot of same resemblances between Michael and Jason, in which Jason also has the mind of a child when he goes about killing. Like he does the same thing where like he'll kill somebody and like, damn, that's crazy. And like he has the mindset of a child. Yeah. That's one thing I like about Jason in general is one, he's probably a little bit more aggressive than Michael. I kind of enjoy a little bit more of the gore from the early ones. I'm not like Saw level gore, but like I love practical effects. So the fact if you can make somebody's head look like exploded with like clay and make it look good, I'm like, I think that's dope. That's talent. I enjoy that.
Yeah, well, there's one big difference that between Jason and Mike Myers, is that Mike Myers wasn't motivated by vengeance. He wasn't wronged by the people he's killing in any way. Jason essentially kind of was. Like, obviously, these aren't the exact camp counselors that fucked him over when he was a kid, but the camp, he obviously feels like the camp let him down and he died because of the counselors not doing their jobs. So he is directly motivated by vengeance on some level. So it's his mom in the first movie.
What about Jason X then, Ethan? How do you explain that?
I refuse to explain that. That is a movie that doesn't exist. Jason X is right up there with The Last Airbender and Dragon Ball Z Evolution. Like, what the hell is this nonsense?
I don't think the people who wrote Jason X know how to explain exactly what they're doing there. It's like,
I know because I did not read.
Please explain, because so what the fuck is that?
Yeah,
literally, what Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell, they were preparing for Jason versus Freddy, or Freddy versus Jason. They were like preparing to do like the crossover because they just got the rights from, I believe. And they were like, well, we can't not make a movie for like 3 years. We had to put something out. So they really just like made 2 bullshit movies that fill up the slots. But also with the Jason X one, they put it in the future.
Like connected it all to
yeah, they put it in the future so that it won't mess with the timeline of what happened in the past because it already happened.
So they don't have to worry about whatever happens in Jason versus Freddy.
Exactly.
Completely irrelevant. What you just did is you just said that they're even dumber than we even thought. So
I will say these movies are fun. Slashers, as bad as they are, I can't think of any slasher really outside of maybe Scream, possibly, in which the story was cohesive and was fun. People watch slashers to see the slasher like prey upon people and kill them in creative ways. I will say Jason X, it was fun. It was funny in a lot of ways too. Like niggas dying on the corkscrew and getting screwed down, or like I think the most notorious Jason kill probably ever, outside of like the sleeping bag kill, is the one where he dipped old girl's face in like nitrogen and like froze her face to it and smashed her face. Like it has creative fun kills like that, and that was done with prosthetics too. So I'm just like, that's what I go for slashers for when I go like a slasher category. Just kill people in fun, creative ways and have like a fun, creepy little backstory about why you're a sociopath.
Right. Yes, I feel it. I I feel it. It's so we're getting to slashers here.
Yeah.
So, quick question for y'all, for Otis and Charlie: which franchise do you have more fun watching, or let's say what's the most fun franchise?
The most
for
fun
you?
slasher
Overall, not just
franchise?
Friday the 13th or Halloween, but overall slasher franchise. What's most fun for you to watch?
For me, it is Scream, just because it feels like again, like out of all the major slasher franchises, it has the most cohesive story, and then like at least there's like some type of mystery to be solved as you're going through those things. All the others is like, yeah, the guy's here, he's gonna kill everybody that's near, so just get as far away as possible, or you're gonna die. You know,
Right.
I prefer, if I'm gonna watch something, I want to like at least be mentally stimulated as along with watching, the gore fest. It's like, okay, like, I at least got to figure out who the killer is. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's at least that mystique to it. With like Michael Myers, Freddy, Jeepers Creepers, so many other the random slasher creatures. Like, there's nothing to figure out. It's like, yep, it's there.
Yeah.
So, two things. One, I will disagree with his point on Jeepers Creepers. I was going to use Jeepers Creepers as like that little trilogy as like one of my favorites. I don't know if it's just because the black culture, for whatever reason, they're like, it's weird how like certain movies that like aren't marketed towards black people like latch on to that movie, and it's like a thing that every black family has seen. I don't think there's been a single black family or a black person I've ever met that hasn't seen Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2. Like, we love that movie for whatever reason.
The thing is, you said black families. I know my family hasn't watched Jeepers Creepers. My mom and sister aren't gonna watch Jeepers Creepers, but I've seen it.
Yeah, that one I enjoyed just because the whole I love creature features and like finding out the motivations of the creatures. Like, he didn't really have a tradition, like a Scream level like reason for killing, because he's like animalistic, and finding out like the nuances of how he works and why he works was fun. I don't know if you guys have seen the third one. The third one's kind of forgettable. I ain't gonna lie to you, but it was fun. Like, you learn more about him.
Now, I guess the thing is, this is one thing we had to define real quick, though. So slashers, when we're talking about slashers, because these aren't force of nature baddies. These are deliberate, sentient things. Even Mike Myers is still a sentient living being. He's a man. Mental disorders or what, or not. Same as Jason Voorhees. He was at least a living being. Freddy Krueger. They're all sentient guys. So with Jeepers Creepers, isn't that the point that he's actually an insect or a bug or giant? Like,
he's a bat. So he's a bat.
It's a bat. Okay, so
like
does that count as a slasher? Would you consider that a slasher? It may be a slasher genre.
In that particular case, I do, just because it's filmed in the slasher format. Like, the creature is hunting them down specifically. Like, he chooses a target. He's going after that target, and like, they're gonna die by the time within the span, if they can get away within the span, because he's only out for like 27 days.
It's a limited,
So he has 27 days in the killing cycle, and it's like every 10, I think it's every 20 or 30 years, he has 27 days in that killing cycle.
Because I thought it was roughly around the same time as Locust, but it's not the same as Locust. But
no. I will agree. I will consider him a slasher because in the way he goes about his kill, he does things like mimic voices or use bodies to make you think he's somewhere else. Like, he does the slasher things. Like, he's a force of nature, but he's a sentient force of nature. Like, he's like, all right, I got to get this done in 27 days real quick so I can get my food and I can go back to sleep.
Okay, all right.
Like, everything he does is like fully deliberate. Like, he's going after that kid
and meditated. I see. Okay.
Like, now he's not like like the thing was like, well, you just gonna eat because he's a
voracious monster,
right? Yeah,
which is my personal favorite, but that's not a slasher.
I know.
But you know my taste. But so for the xenomorph from the Alien franchise, the xenomorph is not a slasher, though. Even though Alien 1 is very much filmed closest to a slasher, it's not a slasher movie. Or he's not a slasher, though. It's not a slasher, right?
No.
I said slasher adjacent because
it's slasher adjacent. It is slasher adjacent.
Slasher things in this kills, like the way he
does do slasher things, and it's filmed like a slasher movie in lots of ways.
Yeah,
but it's not. So
what do you like? We've said that. Like, it's what elements make up a slasher to you guys? Like, is it the jump scares? Is it the the intent of the kills? Is it the creativity behind the kills? Is it like what makes a slasher on film to you guys?
I'm
Definitely.
gonna go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, I talked a lot this episode, so you go ahead. You started off.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. The host. All I was to say was, I think you're right there. You touched on it right there when you said the nature of the kills. It's the way they sensationalize the kills. The kills are kind of the draw. So when you see how a person is killed, like, seeing a guy get impaled, and that's a big huge thing, or seeing how the person's afraid and then they get actually getting slashed, that is a big draw. I think that has to be incorporated in a movie becoming or being thought of as a slasher. Is that the only defining trait? No, but the kills being a linchpin of the film is definitely what makes it part of the slasher.
So for me, I have a criteria. I think it's like around 3, maybe. If I think of more, I'll think of more. But right now, at the top of my head, I have 3 criteria that needs to be met for a slash for me. 1, decently cool backstory, like have a reason on why you're going on a murder spree, whether you're a sociopath, it's revenge, you've been tortured, you're possessed. That have something cool to make me care about the character to some aspect, whether I hate him or love him. Secondly, creative kills, like not even I want to say this creative, just like kills. Oh, combining my second and last one, the stalking, because again, I feel like with a slasher, it's all about like stalking prey, and stalking and killing of your prey. You can kill them in creative ways if you want to be a good slasher, like the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, Freddy, Halloween. Like if you want creative kills and you want to be successful, you have that. But it really is just like creative backstory and stalk and kill prey.
Right.
And that's why I always use like the Xenomorph and like Jeepers Creepers. It's more like horror, like slasher adjacent, because they're meeting those criteria, but the reason they're doing it is more like they're a force of nature versus like they have a reason for doing it.
What would you say? What would you qualify? Or how would you qualify?
I would just say like it has to be a intelligent thing hunting people. Like in that aspect, like I almost consider Predator a slasher.
I was going to bring that up. I do consider it a slasher.
It is, sure.
But go on. I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's like it's just like a sentient thing hunting people for whatever purpose that is, and they're glorifying the kills,
Yes.
And that's Predator down to a T. Like
100%.
Yay, kills! Mark myself with kills. Now
100%.
Next.
And not only that, as opposed to the dumbass teenagers having sex, he's hunting our 80s action tropes, 80s action heroes, essentially. Mm-hmm. But it's very much the same idea. Obviously, oftentimes in slashers, it is the teens having sex that get hunted. However, there's nothing to say that has to be that way. It's just people, prey, being hunted by the slasher. And that's 100% what the Predator is doing. In the first one, forget that sequels, but in that first one, that's what he's doing. He's very much like that.
Speaking on slashers, I want to pitch a movie to Otis real quick. It's another Predator sequel, right? So we're gonna have the Predator, right? It's gonna be Predator 5, the Chirac Dreadpocalypse. Hold on.
I'm leaving the show. I retire. I quit.
You know what you said out loud. You know what you said out loud. Your mouth. We all heard it out loud.
Who's produced by Spike Lee? Is Spike Lee doing this one too?
Yeah, it's obviously Spike Lee.
Oh yeah, like Lee. Predator comes to Chicago. He's like, damn, all these niggas got dreads like me. They got to be they got to be Yowzra just like me. And he comes through and takes over. He finds Chief Keef, right? And makes him make a soundtrack for the Predators.
The problem is I can easily see this being made into a movie for real. Like you've seen the shit they're putting out there. You saw Malignant, Charlie. I mean, that is half a step.
Watch 30 minutes of this movie. Of this Halloween.
I'm watching the whole thing. I'm watching the whole thing tonight. I'm actually watching the whole thing because I'm curious now. Sometimes movies dip into the area where it's so bad you have to see it more.
This is one of those.
Yeah, I'm a watch.
I will say it's fun. You'll have fun watching it.
I'll watch it tonight.
You'll have fun.
Yeah. It is sad though that the best. I mean, like, the hell's happened? Like the last 2 big featured horror films have been like borderline comedies, like this. Such wild misfires. Malignant in this, such wild misfires. What's going on?
And then going back a little bit before that, 8 borderline comedy too.
But some of that was a little deliberate as far as the clown being, but some of it wasn't.
Yeah,
some of it wasn't. But yeah,
I saw one director, at least within like the last couple of years. I forgot who was. Well, I can't remember what director was in particular, But he said with horror in like the last 2 years, they've been trying to make things not as dark because the world's been so dark with like everything going on. So they're trying to like bring some brightness into the world while also keeping people fans of the franchise, the type of movies
You
they love.
you choose slasher movies. No, you choose horror movies to bring some light to people.
That's the problem.
Well, there are a million like slasher comedies.
Yeah, but like
but it's a
like,
you still should do it right.
This is the medium you choose. This is the medium. Like you could pick like soap operas, like any other thing.
Well, the thing is, they're trying to keep the genre they love alive. Like for me, it'd be like with anime. If anime was on a slope where like it's still a big thing, but it's not the dominating thing like it once was, and people are trying to make different anime to make people happy. You know what I mean? Like it's the format you love, so you're gonna make movies in the genre that you love, but you're trying to make it appeal to people at that time while also being. Because one thing I've noticed when I watch any documentary on like horror, all the horror directors and people involved are amazing people. Like they're just nice. Like it's funny to me, like the nicest people are people that are dreaming up ways to like slaughter people.
It varies. I mean,
repressed aggression. That's what that is. That is repressed aggression manifesting on film.
Right.
Like, literally, you hear a million like horror stories of people working with like Christian Bale or like other actors in other like A-list movies. But then you watch any documentary on like the making of a horror movie, they're like friends, they're playing cards. Like the killer's like playing with the kids. Like even in like Bill Skarsgård, he was like, yeah, the kids were scared of him the first day, but after that, he was cool with the kids for the rest of the shoot. Right. They were like all chilling.
Yeah. I mean, it varies. I mean, obviously, like John Carpenter and his crew that worked on Halloween, because it was pretty much a shoestring budget, and they all knew each other. They're all friends when they made Halloween 1 together. And Wes Craven was the person who made like basically softcore skin flicks for a while and other little things, and he was offered to make horror movies. He's like, I don't want to do that. So it's almost like horror isn't what they choose to do. So kind of what they fall into. Sam Raimi, when they made Evil Dead, he made Evil Dead because it's all he could afford to do as a film student. So horror isn't like these that again necessarily like they are super dark evil people. It's like Otis said, that people are working through their own stuff, or people who have it's a genre to explore, not so much that they just have so much violence in them. One of Otis and I's favorite shows, Hannibal, by Brian Fuller. Brian Fuller is you see this guy is like, what? So it's bananas. It is not at all what you'd expect.
Yeah. So Otis, did you plan on doing Halloween for your either or segment? Or is it really that good segment?
Otis? Oh yeah.
I mean, for his is it really that good segment? I have the either or.
Yeah, it's really that good. I mean, I didn't know if he had a different one if he planned to do this one. So just in case.
Halloween.
Well, just to finish that segment up. Then.
It was really good.
All right, that was long. All right. I guess Ethan will get into your segment and start the either or. Are you ready? If you're cool with starting.
I'm not ready to write. I have to type it up first. So go ahead and do Otis's first. Plus, you just played his. We just did
his pretty much for like an hour and a half.
But it was still.
I mean, I can add a little more to it while Ethan gets set up. The Halloween franchise has always been a staple of the Halloween season. It's literally in the name, but has never really been like good, like ever. Like, have you ever seen a Halloween movie and said like, man, that was a really good movie? Or it's like, I saw it, and you talk about it with your friends, but like, is it really like you saying like, man, like I can't wait to see the next one? When's the next one come out? Next Halloween. That's never happened. It's like, yeah, we saw it, we talked about it. There's some kills. It was just like, what the fuck is you doing? I saw a lot of titties. You know what I'm saying? And then just forget about it until the next one is getting promoted the next year. It's never been good. Never been good. No one's ever awarded an award from it that's meaningful.
See, so I'll counter that. I feel like that viewpoint is slightly biased due to one, the things you're into and the people you hang around. Because again, like you told me, you told, at least if I'm wrong, correct me, that you're cool with horror, but you're not a huge fan of like the horror genre like that, correct? Or am I wrong in that?
Incorrect. I've always like if there's a horror thing out, I've always been drawn to watching it, but it's just never been good. It's just like I'll watch it and it's like, maybe this one would be good. Nope. Maybe this one would be good. Nope. Like it's just it's like me trying to like I don't know how to. I guess it's like a drug kind of. It's like I'm trying to get to that first level of high that I hit, and just like never got there. Like, cause the first horror movie that I saw that really scared me, and I think this might be a good segment for. I mean, not segment for subject for next week is The Exorcist. Exorcist. I saw that. That shit fucked me up. Like seeing ghosts. And I saw it pretty young. I was like 5 years old.
So you're 5.
And like
You saw Exorcist when you were 5 years old?
I saw I was 5.
What
Yeah.
are your parents doing?
They were gone. I found it. My dad told me specifically not to watch this movie.
Did
I was
you?
like,
And that's why you watch it. Yeah, that's exactly why you
I
watch
gotta go
it.
do that.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've pretty much been looking for a movie that scared me as much as that. Because like, even though it scared me, like I was like, I gotta finish it. I gotta finish it. I'm sitting there shaking in my bed, like I gotta keep going.
Yeah.
I wanted that again, and I've never really had it.
And see, I think that's the difference when it comes like the thing with horror. I think everyone has that story of like when they're watching it when they're like young and they're not supposed to be watching it, and that's what gets you addicted to it. But for me, being in like different communities, like me just watching different communities and being like different channels, what I've noticed, one, the horror community is a lot bigger than I thought it was. One, and two, they're not really watching it for the scare or being terrified as much as they're watching it for just create, like I said, with creativity and like skills and things like that. They're talking about it for the conversation. Like they enjoy different things about it than we would. I feel like because we watch things like, again, I blame this on Otis. I hate him for this. We critique things in a different aspect. Like when we critique a movie, we're critiquing over cohesiveness of plot, this making sense and this making sense. But I think with horror, because it's so absurd, and especially with a lot of the biggest horror franchises being like slightly comedic, it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be a fun thing. And I think
it is supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
it is supposed to be fun. But a movie should be coherent regardless of any and all circumstances. And that's the thing. If you watch movies, even slashers from the days gone, slasher films from the 60s, 70s, back to Hammer films in the 50s or what have you, they all make sense. That's the idea. They have to make sense. You're never excused for making sense. This Halloween Kills movie, Otis has said thoroughly how it just does not make sense. You never have a carte blanche, blank check to just not make sense. You are beholden to that no matter what. I'm sorry.
The reason I disagree with that is because even in the documentary you had us watch, they talked about it up until Halloween in 78, the movie industry was dying. Like nobody was watching movies. So these cohesive killers and slashers that are around that are making sense are not selling. But it's not until 78 in the 80s and like I guess the 90s is when over the height of horror. The height of horror.
You're saying that the movie industry was failing because the movies made sense.
No, I'm saying like I'm saying with these horror, like with these particular slasher movies, these movies were not doing well.
Sure.
For whatever reason. And once horror became
because there weren't any titties in them yet.
Possibly. Once horror became really comedic, like you get killers like
when they had titties.
When Friday and with Freddy Krueger. And with Freddy is the biggest example. When Freddy was like in his prime, he's cracking jokes saying, I got you, bitch, and doing all this other stuff. People love him and adore him for being crazy, being goofy, and then not making sense.
Even with those he still makes sense though. He's having fun. The one that people like the most for Freddy either is 1 or 3, and 3 is what they call the Dream Warriors. That has the most plot out of all of them. It makes the most sense out of all.
Makes
of them.
No sense.
No, it's actually
it's actually the girl being his daughter.
It's a script that's tangible. It actually follows a through line. It actually is coherent. 1 is coherent too. The things you don't like to see. Think about this way. Right now in our world, right now, Charlie, we're talking about Malignant and Halloween Kills. Imagine if you went to the theater, Otis, and saw Halloween Kills. If you paid full price for Halloween Kills,
I'm getting a refund.
Odds you want a refund, or you say fuck this, I will never come and see another Halloween movie in the theater again. And that's what happens. Bad quality is what keeps people away from paying for something. You're not going to pay full price for something you don't like. And if it doesn't make sense to you, why would you like it?
I disagree in the sense of not the bad quality thing. Yes. Well, no, not the bad quality thing. Whether you liking it or not, people like things. We're not going to act like people don't like things that aren't good quality, or at least good quality according to us. Because again,
Sure.
we analyze things on a lot higher level than 90% of the world does.
Or a different level.
Are a
we
million
look
things
for
like
different things. That's fair.
there are things like Dude, Where's My Car? Like movies like that, or like American Pie, movies that are not great in quality at all, but they're fun and they bring levity, and people will have fun with those movies. People value fun over anything else, which is why you have a lot of bad movies.
I do agree with that, but I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I don't think that something can't be fun and not make sense, or
they're
that
not.
You can make sense and have fun.
I think you can. I just think I think we make the mistake of judging these things based off our standard and not why. Like that's like people coming, like when you have people come into the anime community, right? And they're like, "Why do you enjoy cartoons?" And people fighting in a cartoon. We enjoy that because it's in our community. That's what we like. I feel like that's us going into the horror community, being like, "Why do you like this dude just killing people randomly in like crazy ways?" And the plot doesn't make sense.
But think about what you just said earlier. What you said, as far as one of your criteria for a slasher movie, is that the killer has essentially a motive behind what they're doing, or you like understanding why the killer is doing their thing. That's when your own personal criteria for a slasher movie. That's for a connective tissue of logic.
That's how I identify a particular subsection under the horror. I'm talking about us judging horror in general. Like horror survived off of these fans loving the good, the bad, and the corny movies. Like they love them because these movies still sell out. Especially
I think horror survives off of teenagers being horny and needing something to take a date to. I think that's how that works. I'm pretty sure.
I don't even think so.
It is a huge factor. And the thing is, also, I mean, yes, the biggest draw for most horror movies is ultimately great, gruesome, awesome kills. Yeah, absolutely. But if the movie is so illogical that it gets in the way of your enjoyment, that it's not fun, people aren't going to want to watch it. It's just what it boils down to.
Well, my thing, obviously, it's not to that point because it sells. Like, I'm not saying that the movie can be dog shit terrible and it'll sell. I'm just saying it's dog shit by our standard is what I'm saying. Like by people that are fans of it, because I've watched a lot more independent indie like horror movies that aren't the best quality as like it's not gonna have the same budget as Halloween Kills, or it may not even have the same.
Oh well, yeah, and I'm not even talking about Halloween Kills.
Things like Mandy.
I'm not even talking about that movie at all. I haven't seen it.
There are movies like Mandy or Basket Case or different movies like that where they're horror movies. They're really like off the wall and crazy and probably don't. They make sense. They're cohesive, but they don't make sense. But they're cult classics within the horror community, and they hold those movies close to their chest. The same way us in the anime community or us in the comic community will hold certain comic runs or certain movies to our chest. I just don't want to impose our standards on something else when we're not really in the community like that. Like we're not like you have like Captain America stuff in your background. You don't have a bunch of Scream or horror paraphernalia in your background. Like I literally I took an entire writing class on writing horror.
I do know the genre. I do understand the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
And it is fundamental. It's again, there are fundamentals with any kind of storytelling. And I don't care who you are, what you're making. I hold everyone to the same standard for telling a story. If you're going to charge me full price every time across the board for what I see for my entertainment, then I'm damn well going to hold you to the same standard every time. Period.
And I agree with that. But I'm part of the kin that people pay for experiences also. People will pay to experience something.
They do.
That's my only thing. That's my only thing. Is like, I personally would rather it be good and be fun. But I will not deny that people will pay for something just to experience it, even if it's good or bad. Like they just want to be there and be in the moment.
You're right there too, because there are movies that have guilty pleasures as well. That things that there are plot holes or whatnot, things that don't make sense in movies that I enjoy. That happens, of course it does. And I think ultimately, if you can have fun watching something, if the fun exceeds the logic, who cares? But again, like I said, if the logic gaps are so massive that it gets in the way, it obstructs your joy, then that's a problem. That's what I think.
There's a lot of that in horror.
I think there's more than that than you might think. I think there's like a whole bunch of like B-list movies where like some of like what was that movie that came out a couple years ago, like The Green Room or something like that?
Yeah,
where it's like
exactly what it's called.
That movie made no sense whatsoever. I'm sorry, like none.
The
like so little sense that I didn't even want to finish watching it.
Where they play music at a neo-Nazi.
bar. I don't think there's any more in horror than there is in any other genre. Like I could ask Otis right now to name off 50, like probably 100 bad anime, and he could do it off the top of his head right now.
Sure.
Or 100 bad action movies, or 100 bad Marvel movies, or 100 bad like there's gonna be those in every genre.
Of course,
I feel like horror gets picked on a lot because it was so big.
Well,
that's my thing.
I agree that horror is or genre films, whatever. They are put under weird kind of scrutiny, or they're kind of attacked as being lesser than a lot. And that's true. That's very true. And there are plenty of bad movies in every genre that exist. I completely agree with that too. There are plenty of movies, like, I mean, for example, one of the worst movies I've seen in the past few years was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I hated that movie to pieces, and that is a big, huge Quentin Tarantino 3-hour Oscar-nominated movie, and I hated it, every inch of it. However, I had more fun watching Malignant than I did watching that. And Malignant is a bonkers, off-the-wall movie, but as far as I'm concerned, there's a much clearer logic line on Malignant than there is in fucking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So every movie,
you said that with your whole chest, did you?
I'll do a little more easy comparison. Like everyone on the planet knows that. Just notice you're live. Yeah, we're live.
Did he comment before?
He commented earlier.
Yes. Hello, Michael. See us waving at you. We at you in real time. We see your face.
Yeah, but everyone on the planet knows that The Dark Knight is a significantly better movie than like something like The Avengers.
Right.
But are you gonna sit down and rewatch The Dark Knight right now, or are you gonna sit down and watch The Avengers? If you had to choose,
it's like easier to watch Avengers, probably. I mean, people won't watch Dark Knight again, but it's a lot easier to watch. Avengers. Easy.
See, personally, I get on sexually to that kind of guy. I mean,
yes. So I think what Blaine may be talking about too, like for example, one of our favorite movies is Silence of the Lambs. That's a psychological thriller, great movie. And I've watched it multiple times, but it's not necessarily the easiest watch to just jump into every time. It's it's not
real quick.
Fun. In
Mike, we do our live shows on Sundays. Everything else pre-recorded, but we go live on Sundays. Yeah. Look, go ahead. My bad. You can go ahead. Continue.
No. I was just saying we're just talking about the idea, and this is I do like this conversation because it is very much ambiguous and it's left up for interpretation and things like that. It depends on what you consider fun, and it depends on what you consider a bridge too far in logic. Some people, like Charlie, some people will genuinely won't mind any of the logic gaps in Halloween Kills, and they'll have so much fun with the kills themselves that they'll enjoy the movie overall. That's perfectly fine. That's great. More power to you. And there's some people that'll be like Otis that are much more strict about that kind of stuff, and they will not give any kind of quarter, and they'll be done. So it's the entire audience is going to have different views on things. That's how everything boils down.
The only reason I've written for horror so hard is I'm a big person about keeping the same energy when it comes to things. And I see a lot of things that people get on the horror about that I'll see in like the action genre of movie, like an action movie, like Transformers. That got away with selling so much money, and people know it's bad, but it got away with so much because there's action and Megan Fox or attractive.
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious franchise. Franchise doesn't make sense, but it's making all kinds of money.
And people know it's bad. People know it's bad,
but
people don't really get on those movies as hard as they'll get on the horror. Horror for me, as long as I've been like, especially like growing up in my household, like it's the devil or da da da, which is already I get it because you're in the traditional South. You look at any murder, da da da. Sure. But already there's that stigma already, and then the stigma of like, oh, they only have titties in this. That's why it's popular. Da da da. Things that other franchises or other types of movies get away with, and they don't get ripped apart as hard on. They do it more, if not just as much, if not more, than horror does.
Well,
it's just a genre.
I think Expendables has less titties than any horror movie ever.
Which one?
Expendables, like the franchise.
Expendables. Yeah, it has plenty of man titties.
You got man titties, yeah. You got Terry Crews in that, so
yeah, Terry Crews. And Terry Crews has his contract where he has to take his shirt off at least twice in everything he's in ever.
True.
But that's I think the scrutiny, like you're saying, the scrutiny that the horror genres put under, some may not be fair all the time. Part of it is because they, it's their objective. I made a film, a independent film that was the first one I ever made was horror, and it was they broke down the exact rules that the producer gave him. My mentor that was directing it broke down the rules. He said it's got to have titties and blood. That's it. And so, all right, fair enough. It's kind of that's the idea though, is that even within that genre, that's their creed.
Yeah,
you can understand why critics and the people are coming at them.
I don't see, and that's the thing though. Like with it's not all creeds, because then you have movies like
no, it's not all creeds.
a Hereditary, or a Mandy, or movies that don't have that. But then people are like, oh, it's boring. But the titties,
no,
if you have titties in this, oh, it's cool. But you have titties in it. But movies that
that's
don't
the
have
stigma.
that,
It's the same as in the States. You and I, obviously three of us and all kinds of blurs. We love anime and other animated movies. We understand that there's different types of genres that can be animated. But the stigma is if it's animated, it's for kids in the States, in the West, more or less. It's the idea of being able to understand the nuances and appreciate them. There are nuances in horror too. It's not always the same kind of thing. I do consider House of Lambs a psychological horror movie. It's a psychological thriller, at least. Obviously, Hereditary is too, and they're very different between Halloween or something like Nightmare on Elm Street or Hostel, whatever those kind of things are. So there are nuances and differences in the movies. There are.
Right. And my last point, agree with your point. I kind of agree with you earlier as far as what did you say? As far as us enjoying different things with movies, I will agree with you in the sense of like I do different like. The reason I'm really generous with a lot of movies is because you're playing the law of averages. You very rarely get good AAA title movies. Like it's very rare that you see good ones. So I don't go into any of these movies with the expectation of it being a great movie. I go in with the expectation of, will I have fun? All right, cool. Now you can surprise me and be like, oh, I had fun and it was a great movie. Like with something like Shang-Chi, I didn't expect that to be good at all. I was like, will it be fun? Will it have good fights? All right, cool. And it surprised me, and it was fun. I had fun, and it was a great movie. It surprised me.
Yeah,
I'm like I like to be an optimist because I feel like I'll have more fun consuming content being an optimist versus ripping everything I see apart. Because at the end of like me and Otis have different like ways about going about reviewing movies, but at the end of the day, we're all going to watch them anyway. We're going to watch them.
I mean, but I'm the type of person that I'll rip everything apart. Like I can love a thing and rip it apart. Like Code Geass is my favorite. Everybody, my name is Lelouch V. You see that on the screen. Oh, I can rip Code Geass apart. Yeah, that's easy.
Tell him your score. Tell him your score on Code Geass. What it actually is.
It's an 8. It's an 8. Yeah,
it's not even a perfect.
My favorite anime ever. It's an 8.
It's not even
perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just me. I'll rip everything apart equally.
Wild for you. That's if y'all don't know Otis, that's wild for that's wild.
Yeah. But we've obviously we're getting a little late here. We've gone on for a while, so we can go ahead and move on to our final segment for the night. Then.
All right, you ready? Mm-hmm. All right, guys. This is our final segment of the day, our either or segment.
All right. Welcome to Either Or, and this is a fun one because the person who actually as we're dancing all around, I'm still gonna talk. I'm not gonna stop talking because always on the screen. But we actually even there you go.
There you go.
The last 2 days.
The last 2 days have been like cursed. But what's funny about this is the person who actually originated this concept, this idea. We were on his show, or had him on our show a while back. I think he's in the live chat now. So, Michael, if you're here, thank you again, brother. We're using we've taken your idea, we've stolen your idea, and made it our own. But but Either Or is a bit of a hypothetical game that we play here on the show, where I give 2 scenarios to our guests or to our co-host or whoever else, and they have to kind of pretty much choose which scenario they favor, and they have to show their work as to why they like them. So. Today, keeping in line with Halloween and survivors and things of that nature, the Either Or question for my lovely co-host, Charlie Wilson and Otis East. Either you team up with the current Laurie Strode to battle Mike Myers or current Sarah Connor to battle a Terminator. Now, you have to show your work, and it is the current versions of these, not them at their apex form. Their current versions. They were both in films recently that showed them in their more or less current forms. All right. So, also, Mike, you answered too. Go ahead and chime in with your answer, Mike. And Blaine, Mike, if you're there, anybody else, Blaine, anybody else, I'll chime in.
And Charlie, you want to go first?
Was me first, yeah. Mine's easy. It's pretty simple. Out of the 2, Sarah Connor's actually beaten and killed the Terminator before, multiple Terminators. Laurie's still trying to struggle with Mike right now. So I take the person that actually won in their multiple confrontations with Terminators versus the person that's still struggling with the same person.
That's okay. Now I am allowed, Mike. Sorry, I'm allowed to challenge, not challenge, but to just bring up some things. You have to remember though that Sarah, in battling the Terminator, she's always had assistance from other people who were basically sent, who were trained,
or another Terminator.
They were trained specifically to battle this Terminator for her, literally for her, on her behalf of her life and her son's life too. In Laurie's case, she had no training. She was literally a babysitter that battled a monster. So
true, but at the same time, my point still stands.
Okay,
she's won before. Laurie's still struggling again, like you said. She started at 17 and she's over 60 in this last movie, and she's still struggling with this man. Sarah, she may have had all that help, but at least she knows how to kill a Terminator. Laurie doesn't know how to kill Mike. Mm-hmm. She's just like, she knows how he can't die because she said that in the most recent movie. She knows you can't kill him with brute force.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Blaine, Sarah Connor, she is ready for war, and Laurie is a sister battling for her brother.
Yeah, well, they're not related now. Like they retconned
technically, they changed the canon, but yeah. I see what he's saying. I feel on that. I am Mike Myers keep coming back, and he is a beast. Yes,
they're treating this nigga Mike Myers like the Undertaker now. He just like, all right, stab 50,000 times.
So
sit up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a contrarian here because I'm definitely taking up a Laurie, and we're not trying to kill Mike. We just gonna trap him in cement and then watch that cement forever. Like, just put it in the middle of a field of people. Have your guns ready. Just
you think he won't get out?
He gonna get out eventually, but by that time, I'm gonna be somewhere else. He gotta find me.
He's gonna find you though.
Your tactic is like,
I'm not gonna be stupid and let my address be picked up by this fucking random crazy ass doctor in the insane asylum and give it to him. You're not gonna find me. I'm gonna be off the grid.
H2O, 20 years later, she changed her name, cut her hair, moved to a whole different state, and that nigga still found her.
That's petty though. That's petty. Okay, no, I feel you. So again, I always have to challenge it in some way. So one thing I'll say is that, how do you intend to get Michael Myers to a place that has this wet cement that you can trap?
Hey, I'm gonna use Laurie as a trap. Like you go sit there.
Oh, you can use her as bait.
You go sit there.
Your partner as bait.
Sit down there. Sit down there. He's gonna come. We'll wait. We got time.
The dirtiest pool. This dude's pool is so dirty.
That's literally the plot of the last Halloween movie. That's what happened. They trapped him in a house and tried to burn it down.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying you play dirty pool. You play pool with like cue balls made of ash or something. But okay, that's fine.
You saw this shit says. It says either you team up, and this nigga's like, yeah, I'm sacrificing her. I'm like,
yeah, that's sacrificing. If she get out, that's up to her. I don't know if she want to get out at this point. Like, you seen the movie? Does she want to escape? I don't know.
I don't know.
Either way it goes, it's what we doing.
Here's what I'll say to you too, Dev. So this past week, Otis and I, we started playing some Back for Blood together, right? And there was a part where we had to battle our way like in some later on the levels, like through the ship to get to the end. And I was like stuck on a wall trying to do something, and I turned around. I saw Otis gone, like gone up the other side of it. I was like, damn man, I'm fighting a horde of zombies. And Otis is gone. He's bolted. That's okay.
I came back and we both made it out. Okay, we both made it out. I just had to get some ammo because I was out. Okay,
you had to come back. You should have left.
I was supposed to just sit there and punch at the zombies. Right. I was out of ammo. Okay, they had unlimited ammo at the other side, so I went to the other side to get it.
Okay, when I get it, we're good.
And we beat the board. We did not.
We did. But I do know that in an apocalypse, to distance myself from Otis before things get really, really bad. I know this already. This has been established in multiple episodes already of the show. So okay. All right. But I will give full credit to both y'all. Both y'all made very valid points. Both y'all are, one for Sarah, one for Laurie, and obviously the same thing with Blaine and Mike. Great points. Y'all both valid, very valid answers. So right on.
All right. When I get it, don't worry, I ain't gonna leave you when I get it. It's fine. We gonna ride it out. We gonna ride
Right.
it out.
Bro, like the tall boys, those are a problem. I don't like those things. I prioritize them first. They gotta go.
I saw on some other playthrough or later on too how what they can start doing as far as like as they pick you up, they can just hold you up in the air while other ones attack you and stuff. Yeah, they are not friendly. They are not friendly.
Yeah, the backup bloodstream is coming soon. It's definitely coming soon.
Yeah, we got Mike on there too. Mike, you can join up with us. Blaine, you can join up with us too. Whoever.
That's a 4-man squad right there.
It's a 4-man squad right there.
All right, y'all. Well, this has been. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Blaine. Thank you, Mike, and the other anonymous person that's been watching the whole time. Thank you guys for tuning in for the live show, the In and Out podcast. We will see you guys next Sunday at 5:30.